Hi, beautiful filmmakers. It is Monday. Happy Monday. Hope you guys are having an awesome start to the week. I just wanted to jump on. This is Filmmaker to Filmmaker. This week, I have a question that came up from three filmmakers this week. Can you imagine that three people wrote to me with basically the same question this week? So I thought the universe is telling me I have to answer this. The question, in a nutshell, is, and I'm going to read from my laptop here. The question this week is basically screenwriting services, screenwriting reading services, script reader services. Are they worth it? What are they? What should I do? And basically, like, one person wrote to me, they said, should I do one because I'm 3,000 miles away from LA and I don't know whether it's worth doing it for that. Hi, just saying hi to some people who have come on. Nice to see you today. Happy Monday. So we're talking about script reader services this week. Hi. And somebody else wrote to me and they said, are they a scam? Which I thought was quite funny. I don't think they're a scam. Maybe some are, but I don't think they are in general. So let's talk about script reading services. And this is for people who have written a screenplay and they're looking for notes or feedback on their screenplay. And I'm going to be upfront here right now. I have never done this. I have never paid for someone to read my script and give me notes. So I can't actually say whether, I can't recommend something. I can't say, well, I did it with such and such and I thought it was amazing and you should do it with them too. I can't say that because I've never actually paid for script writing services. But after getting these three people writing to me, I did sort of think, right, I'm going to do a little bit of research on this and come up with some conclusions. Do I think you have to pay for notes on your screenplay? No, of course I don't, because I've never done it. So I'm not going to say you have to do it and it's absolutely essential, and if you don't do it, you're crazy. I never did it. But my very first screenplay, I was quite lucky. I felt like I had a few people that I could reach out to who worked in the film industry and who would be willing to read my script, and they did, and they gave me feedback. Subsequently, after that, I just met more and more people within the industry who would read my things. Now I'm very blessed. I have a fantastic manager, Dan Halstead, who's always my first stop, and he always gives me incredible notes. He also does usually give it to to a reader to do sort of classic coverage, and so I guess he's paying for it, and I appreciate that, and I don't feel indebted to them. Something that I thought about, just about getting feedback, and I think it's just really important for us as artists that we trust our own voices and we trust our instincts with our screenplays. And, I just feel like, just be cautious that you don't think that they're the pro and you're not, and you have to do everything that they say. You take what they come at you with and use whatever you feel is helpful and intuitively sits with you correctly, and ignore the rest. And I go, obviously whenever you call in a professional, and especially if you pay, like if you've paid someone $169 or something, or $200 or $300 for their feedback, and then, you get their feedback, you're going to feel sort of like you ought to listen to it. I would. If I had spent a few $100s, I'd sort of feel like I ought to get it. Somebody just wrote, do we copyright before getting feedback? No, your copyright is basically, you own your copyright. Like anything that you write, you own the copyright to automatically, okay? And so about that, like basically if you want like a piece of paper, one, you could always register it with WGA, which is not a bad idea to do, right? And it doesn't cost a lot of money. It's not an official copyright, but what it means is that it's the script as it exists at that point is registered. And then obviously I suspect you probably have to sign some sort of, release form for most of these, especially if the script reader service, if they're screenwriters, I suspect you have to sign something saying that you appreciate that they might have something in development that's the same, so get ready to do that. My general take on that stuff is don't worry about it. And I used to worry about it immensely with my first couple of screenplays. I was really worried that someone would steal my idea and go off and write it. And now I'm not worried about it at all. I think if you can get anyone to read it, it's great. And I sort of think, the thing is, like, if you imagine from a producer's point of view, is it smarter and cheaper and easier to like buy your screenplay? And even if they don't love the screenwriting, say they just love the concept of your screenplay, right? Isn't it cheaper and easier for them to just buy it from you and then pay someone else to rewrite it, for instance? Rather than pay someone else to rewrite it and risk, you suing them later on, and especially if there's any paper trail, you can prove that they had your script at a certain point, right? it's a no-brainer. They're going to buy it from you, you know. And the same with other writers. I just sort of go, most writers I know have like more ideas than they can ever possibly have time to make, you know, or to write. I know I do. Like, I have so many ideas that I'm dying to write, and I just don't have time to do it. And so the last thing on my mind is sort of like pinching someone else's idea, you know. The other thing to think about is most of our scripts are you know, have been done before, and it's not about the story, it's all about the execution, you know. Like, as they say, there's only 7 plots, you know, and so like it's highly unlikely that you have something completely unique and original. I mean, I'm not saying you might have something completely unique, but probably not totally original, you know. It's all in the telling, and you have to have faith in that. So I don't think you need to get any special copyright. I suspect you will have to sign something, some sort of disclaimer. And to be fair, you know, in the universe, if you're having an idea, someone else probably is having it at the same time. How many times have you had an idea for a movie and then a week later you're like, oh, someone's doing that movie, or a business idea, or whatever kind of idea? I mean, it's, you know, if you're having it, someone else is doing it. So I hope that helps with the copyright. But as I say, I do think it's worth registering with WGA, just so that you have proof that your screenplay looked a certain way and was a certain thing at a certain point in time, so that if there ever was a litigation, you could prove that. But beyond that, don't worry about it. Get it out. Get as many people to read it as possible. Now, as I said, I never actually paid anyone to read my script. I'm like, and I do sort of feel like cautious in, you know, if you feel like you've invested in it, then that you have to do everything that they say. And I sort of worry that, like, you know, you find that it's important that you find the right person with the right vibe, you know, to read your script and give you feedback, who can really help you achieve what you're trying to do with your screenplay, you know, and is not going to give you sort of generic notes on it. And to be honest, and I guess I say this partly because I have, you know, over the years, the screenplays I've written have received, you know, coverage, quote unquote, from readers, and it's often just horrified me because I just feel like they haven't understood at all the kind of movie that I want to make, and you know, and I'm just like, I've read some terrible notes on my scripts over the years, and you know, and if I had paid $150 or $200 for that, you know, I'd be kind of totally bummed, you know, because somebody is there saying, oh, you know, this is terrible because you know, you don't understand this or that, and it's like, hey, you don't understand the kind of movie I'm making, clearly. So, you know, I think it's really worth, if you are going to do, if you're going to go down the route of paying someone to give you script notes, I think it's really important to find a company or an individual who you feel will understand the kind of film that you want to make, you know, and they're not just going to be like the generic, like, person, you know, script reader who's beholden to sort of Robert McKee and Save the Cat and things like that, and is going to be, you know, giving you shit because your protagonist doesn't do a certain thing by a certain page and there's no stakes in the first act and whatever, you know, because I've had that kind of feedback and I don't find it helpful. In a funny way, I thought, like, if you're a real indie, if you're aspiring to make real indie movies and you're like, you know, sort of, you want to make things that are a little outside of the norm or outside of the cookie cutter, you know, in that case, I almost would say to you, you know, don't go to these professional screen reading services, you know, like screenplay reading services, you know, just forge your own path. And I sort of thought, this will sound bizarre, but I do think, like, writing scripts is like having babies, you know, and making films is like having babies. And I thought about how I actually had my babies, not my script babies, but my real babies. And the first baby that I gave birth to, it was in a hospital, and it was with a midwife, and it was a totally natural, unmedicated birth. But still, I just remember the whole time, like, I was always listening to her instruction, because she's the pro, right? And the minute you feel like someone's the pro, you feel like you've got to listen to them. You'd be crazy not to, you know? My second baby, insanely, was born in my bathroom after quite a short labor, and I had nobody there. I was completely on my own. It sounds bonkers, and it kind of was bonkers, but it was amazing. And I just thought the difference in experience, where I didn't have a pro in the room, right? And I just, like, could totally tune into my own instincts, you know, and I knew exactly what to do. And I have this funny feeling that a lot of that is true for screenwriting as well, that we sort of think there's some professional out there who can tell us what we need to do, and we have to do it according to what they're saying because they have the secret, you know, and they've done it before and all that. And there's some wisdom in that. It's totally true. But there's also wisdom just in your own heart, and only you know the script that you're trying to write and the baby that you're trying to birth into the world. And I think there's something to be said as well for really, digging into your own soul and being guided by that and getting feedback. I think feedback is essential, getting people to read you. I think it's essential you get other people to read it at certain points so you can explore ideas, and it's really helpful to be able to talk about your screenplay, with somebody who's got fresh eyes on it. But does that necessarily mean paying for sort of script reading services? I don't think so. I don't think it necessarily does. But I'm not going to say you shouldn't do it, And so, and it's certainly not a scam. I would say, to the person who wrote to me, the filmmaker who said, is it a scam? I don't think it's a scam. I think there's a really legitimate service. And I think especially if you are hoping to, you've written something that's more conventional and you are hoping to go down a conventional route with it, then I think there could be a huge value in it. But if you're planning to make something that's really like your baby, I don't know. I sort of think, not listening to professionals can be the smartest thing to do, all right? Somebody says here, Tanglewood says, they'll tell you that page count matters, but it doesn't. Exactly. I just go like, it all depends on your, like what you're trying to make. So, even with every decision that you make along your journey, I try to say like, just be guided by yourself. Like, what do you feel? Do you feel like you want to get somebody, who's in the business to read it and write that typical coverage? Now, if you're planning to submit your script ultimately to the bigger agencies and so forth, it might be a good idea because it will get you ready for what they will give you. We got a couple of recommendations, and I was going to get to the recommendations in a minute, and these are two that actually came up for me in my research: We Screenplay and Bulletproof. So we'll get into that in a minute and talk about which ones are worth going to or checking out. So I think like, if you've decided, just be guided for yourself. Don't feel you have to do it. Okay, if you don't want to, if you've got, if you feel really confident in your own voice and in what you're doing, and you've got some feedback friends who can give you some feedback, don't feel you have to. But if you do feel guided towards it, if you're like, I really, really crave that, I really want that before I start sending it out, then do it. Now, and we've got two recommendations here from someone, and these were ones that came up from my list because I did some Google research, and I say I've never actually used any of these, so I can't give a personal recommendation, but the ones that came up and that I sort of like narrowed it down to which ones I probably would go to. And interestingly, like I've just started a new screenplay, and I was thinking maybe this time I will try and do this just for fun, just to have the experience after I've written it. It could be good. So one person here said We Screenplay, and that is one that came up for me. That was the first one that I discovered online today. And it says it's fast, affordable, and popular with emerging and professional writers. Coverage is delivered within 72 hours, which is incredible. And prices range from $69 for 5 full pages to $199. And it sounds, solid. So if if you're looking for this kind of coverage, We Screenplay could be a good one. Now, the one that I really like the look of was Bulletproof Script Coverage by Indie, and this comes from Indie Film Hustle. Alex Ferrari, some of you might know, an odd fact, is an old friend of mine, and he actually was the colorist on my first movie, Elsa Lydia, and I just love Alex. That's not why I would recommend it, though. I think Alex, he understands filmmakers and the things we're up against, and what I loved about it was that they had three different options. So they had one option for if you are going to do an indie like micro budget movie, and then they had another option of script notes if you're going to do a sort of mid-range movie, and then they had another option for if you're wanting to aim to make a studio film. And I thought that was really interesting. I'm not sure that it's necessarily about budget, but really about sensibility, because obviously if and this is what I've always thought about, like paying somebody to give you script notes on your little micro budget movie, and and they're used to reading studio films and are expecting you to adhere to that kind of filmmaking, it'd be a bit of a waste of time. So I really love the fact that Bulletproof offered these different options. I personally think that's the one I would go for. It was either Bulletproof definitely sounded good, and they're also very reasonable. $99 for the basic. And we have somebody here, Allie Mae, is saying that she used Bulletproof and she was happy with it too. So I would definitely recommend that one. I think that looked great. And at $99, and it's like the other one, $69, you can't really go wrong. It's not a huge investment, and it might just spark something off for you. The other one that I like the look of was Script Reader Pro, and their basic script coverage is more expensive. It's at like $169. So that seemed higher. But for the screenwriter who wrote to me who says I'm 3,000 miles away from LA, I thought Scriptwriter Pro could be a good choice, because they sort of can help you in other ways. Like if they love it, it says they might even help you find a manager or agent and stuff like this. So I don't know, check them out. Script Reader Pro, I think they could be a really good service, especially if you're not in LA. It might be sort of a connection. The other one that I think is quite interesting to me was the Blacklist, obviously, which you might know because the Blacklist every year make a list of the best unproduced screenplays, which is based on a poll taken with agents and managers and producers in Hollywood. So they say, what's the best script you've read in the last year? And they tally up the points and find which are the best unproduced scripts. And that's led to a lot of scripts getting made over the years as well. So I noticed, somebody says Blacklist is a waste of money. Okay. Because I was like, it's kind of interesting because it says that they will do an evaluation for $75, but somebody is saying it's a waste of money. So, I mean, this is it, I guess you take your gamble. I'd be interested why you think it was a waste of money. I'm really curious. Was it just bad notes or useless notes? I guess they don't really exactly give script coverage. Is that the case? What I've read is that they score your movie on a 10-point scale. My friend just got a rep and sold off 2 8 evaluations. Okay, so it's not terrible then if somebody sold their script because they got listed on this. I don't know, check out the Blacklist. I guess it's not really coverage in the sense. I guess it's more like the chance to be on their database. That seems to be the thing. And that if you've scored highly, you're going to score higher on the database. I kind of find it hard to imagine that producers are just sort of like looking at the Blacklist, to determine, to look for a script. I can't really imagine that that's the case. I just don't feel like the industry works that way. That's kind of like the idea as a filmmaker that people just go to Kickstarter to throw money at your film and they've never met you and they've never heard of you and they're just going to give you money. I don't think it happens like that. And I'd be amazed if scripts on Blacklist happen just like that. And this filmmaker said no coverage, random people evaluate from Blacklist. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't think it's a scripts coverage service, but it's, I guess, a sort of a talent discovery platform. Is that the correct phrase? Where, if your script is liked by people there, then it goes on to a kind of searchable database. I'm not sure if it's on there anyway, whether people don't like it. I mean, that sounds kind of weird to me because it gets into like a popularity contest for screenplays too. I don't know if you want to be a part of that or not. I mean, so it's worth considering. Bottom line though, Melanie Toast sold to Eli Roth of Blacklist, but she's an amazing writer. Yeah, and I think that's it. Blacklist definitely has, it can help a screenplay. Obviously, it's already a little bit rigged often by people within the industry now. I know there's a thing let's get your script on the Blacklist and that will get it made this year, and people who already have representation and so forth. Anyway, it's there. The Blacklist, it's a possibility. As I say, for actual if you're looking for actual notes and coverage for your screenplay to make your screenplay better, I would try Bulletproof script coverage, and that's from Indie Film Hustle, or We Screenplay, or Script Reader Pro. If you have experience with any of these or any other ones, do share. Either I will be posting this up onto YouTube, share on the link on YouTube, or on the Facebook page, Shoot from the Heart. Come along and share your experiences with script reading coverage. It's such a fascinating thing. As I say, my only experience with it has been, scripts I've written that have gone into the system somehow, and I've got to read coverage that's come back. And sometimes I'm just like, oh, good gosh, these people, they understand nothing. And I've got this thing about readers, how they're just like, sort of bitter screenwriters who wish that their scripts were getting considered, and instead they're having to read them, and they're just mean sometimes. That's been my experience. As I say, you don't need to do it. Do it if you want to. Do it if you're guided to it. Find the right sources. In every case, when you are getting feedback on your script, when you're getting notes, it doesn't matter who it's from, whether it's from an Oscar-winning screenwriter or whether it's from your mom. Here's the deal. You take what helps you and you ignore the rest, okay? Because only you know the story you are trying to tell, right? And again, I'll just say it, get into a quiet space with it, and be guided yourself. And when you're listening to notes or when you're reading the notes, just open yourself up, and let the rain come down and let them water the seeds that will help you grow the best script. And the water that doesn't hit the seeds, just let it drain away, right? That makes sense. Just ignore it, okay? Because only you know your script. Nobody else does. And people can give you a ton of advice, and you can turn yourself inside out trying to make everybody happy with your script, and you will end up with a script that nobody loves. Make sure you love your script, so trust your own instincts. So I hope that helps. The 3 screenwriters who wrote to me this week with this question about script reading services, I will email them individually just to let them know that I did this. And if you are one of them, and if you are here, I hope it's been helpful. I hope it's helpful for other screenwriters too. And you guys, I just want to tell you that right now, my screenwriting course is open for registration, which I am so excited about. And I've already got a few students in there starting their screenplays. It is an 8-week course that guides you from concept right through to completion of a first draft. It's, for me, it's sort of like my baby. It's really my heart, this screenplay. Hey, thank you. This course is sort of like, it's so close to me because it feels like it's exactly what I needed when I was writing my first screenplay. Somebody wrote to me the other day, one of those people who just likes to hurl some negativity at you. They were like, why would I sign up to your course when I could just go buy some screenwriting books, and it'd be cheaper and I'd probably write it just as good a screenplay. And I was like, you totally can buy those screenwriting books, and I'm not saying don't, This exists because I did that. That's how I did my first screenplay. I was totally self-taught, and it took me 3 years to write my first screenplay. 3 years, which I just think is, when I think back to it, is crazy. And the reason it took 3 years is because I would just get filled with doubt. I would get filled with fear. I would be confused. I wouldn't know what to do next. I'd read back my last 10 pages and think they were terrible and that it was never going to go anywhere, etc., etc., etc. And what's kind of nuts is once I finished that first draft, I rewrote it and honed it and had something ready to go out and show people within a few months, and literally 1 year from finishing the first draft, within a year I had optioned that screenplay and had been hired by the director John McTiernan to rewrite a script from him, right? So within 1 year, and I went from being a yoga teacher in Barcelona to living in LA and making my living as a screenwriter in 1 year from finishing my first draft. And I just go guys, if you want to write a screenplay and there's many paths to doing it, there are many paths, but the course that I've created, I know will guide you through that process in an efficient way. You will learn a way of writing scripts that is, that I think also serves you in helping you write the best one you can. So, Tanglewood in the house, and they have said, it was written in my 8-week class. It's amazing. Do it. Thank you so much. And I cannot wait to see Tanglewood because I'm so excited about that movie. I love it. So, I just go I'm not saying it's for everybody, but if you want to write a screenplay and you just want to get it down, because that is the first stage. I'm just always, until you have a first draft down, you have nothing. Once you have that, you have something. You can get coverage for instance. There's no limits to what you can do. But seriously, I know for myself, it was things just took off after I finished that very first screenplay. And it could be the same for you. And you can take years to get to that point, or you can accelerate it. So if you want to accelerate it, join me in that class. It's super fun. And I have also, just on a side note, I've just started writing a new screenplay myself, which I am very excited about. And I'm sharing about the process of writing it. We've got a Facebook group just for the students of that class, and I'm just sharing a little bit about my reflections as I'm going through the exact same process, basically, that I'm teaching people, which is kind of fun. It feels very meta. All right, guys, I hope you have a wonderful week and that this has been helpful, and it's been lovely to see some dear friends in here today. Take care, guys. Have an awesome week. Happy Monday.